Welcome to the channel. In today's video, we're diving into Grade 10, Chapter 7, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. We'll be going through the question answers from pages 91 to 96 of your English textbook, all fully solved and explained to help you prepare for exams with ease. So grab your book, get comfortable, and let's begin exploring the wisdom and inspiration hidden in The Alchemist.
The Alchemist. The boy's name was Santiago. Dusk was falling as the boy arrived with his herd at an abandoned church. The roof had fallen in long ago, and an enormous sycamore had grown on the spot where the sacristy had once stood. He decided to spend the night there. He saw to it that all the sheep entered through the ruined gate, and then laid some planks across it to prevent the flock from wandering away during the night. There were no wolves in the region, but once an animal had strayed during the night, and the boy had had to spend the entire next day searching for it. He swept the floor with his jacket and lay down, using the book he had just finished reading as a pillow. He told himself that he would have to start reading thicker books, they lasted longer, and made more comfortable pillows. It was still dark when he awoke, and, looking up, he could see the stars through the half-destroyed roof. I wanted to sleep a little longer, he thought. He had had the same dream that night as a week ago, and once again he had awakened before it ended. He arose and, taking up his crook, began to awaken the sheep that still slept. He had noticed that, as soon as he awoke, most of his animals also began to stir. It was as if some mysterious energy bound his life to that of the sheep, with whom he had spent the past 2 years, leading them through the countryside in search of food and water. They are so used to me that they know my schedule, he muttered. Thinking about that for a moment, he realized that it could be the other way around, that it was he who had become accustomed to their schedule. But there were certain of them who took a bit longer to awaken. The boy prodded them, one by one, with his crook, calling each by name. He had always believed that the sheep were able to understand what he said. So there were times when he read them parts of his books that had made an impression on him, or when he would tell them of the loneliness or the happiness of a shepherd in the fields. Sometimes he would comment to them on the things he had seen in the villages they passed. But for the past few days he had spoken to them about only one thing, the girl, the daughter of a merchant who lived in the village they would reach in about 4 days. He had been to the village only once, the year before. The merchant was the proprietor of a dry goods shop, and he always demanded that the sheep be sheared in his presence, so that he would not be cheated. A friend had told the boy about the shop, and he had taken his sheep there. "I need to sell some wool," the boy told the merchant. The shop was busy, and the man asked the shepherd to wait until the afternoon. So the boy sat on the steps of the shop and took a book from his bag. "I didn't know shepherds knew how to read," said a girl's voice behind him. The girl was typical of the region of Andalusia, with flowing black hair, and eyes that vaguely recalled the Moorish conquerors. "Well, usually I learn more from my sheep than from books," he answered. During the 2 hours that they talked, she told him she was the merchant's daughter, and spoke of life in the village, where each day was like all the others. The shepherd told her of the Andalusian countryside, and related the news from the other towns where he had stopped. It was a pleasant change from talking to his sheep. "How did you learn to read?" the girl asked at one point. "Like everybody learns," he said. "In school." "Well, if you know how to read, why are you just a shepherd?" The boy mumbled an answer that allowed him to avoid responding to her question. He was sure the girl would never understand. He went on telling stories about his travels, and her bright, Moorish eyes went wide with fear and surprise. As the time passed, the boy found himself wishing that the day would never end, that her father would stay busy and keep him waiting for 3 days. He recognized that he was feeling something he had never experienced before, the desire to live in one place forever. With the girl with the raven hair, his days would never be the same again. But finally the merchant appeared, and asked the boy to shear 4 sheep. He paid for the wool and asked the shepherd to come back the following year. And now it was only 4 days before he would be back in that same village. He was excited, and at the same time uneasy. Maybe the girl had already forgotten him. Lots of shepherds passed through, selling their wool. "It doesn't matter," he said to his sheep. "I know other girls in other places." But in his heart he knew that it did matter. And he knew that shepherds, like seamen and like traveling salesmen, always found a town where there was someone who could make them forget the joys of carefree wandering. The day was dawning, and the shepherd urged his sheep in the direction of the sun. "They never have to make any decisions," he thought. "Maybe that's why they always stay close to me." The only things that concerned the sheep were food and water. As long as the boy knew how to find the best pastures in Andalusia, they would be his friends. Yes, their days were all the same, with the seemingly endless hours between sunrise and dusk. And they had never read a book in their young lives, and didn't understand when the boy told them about the sights of the cities. They were content with just food and water, and, in exchange, they generously gave of their wool, their company, and once in a while their meat. If I became a monster today, and decided to kill them, one by one, they would become aware only after most of the flock had been slaughtered, thought the boy. They trust me, and they've forgotten how to rely on their own instincts, because I lead them to nourishment. The boy was surprised at his thoughts. Maybe the church, with the sycamore growing from within it, had been haunted. It had caused him to have the same dream for a second time, and it had caused him to feel anger toward his faithful companions. He drank a bit from the wine that remained from his dinner the night before, and he gathered his jacket closer to his body. He knew that a few hours from now, with the sun at its zenith, the heat would be so great that he would not be able to lead his flock across the fields. It was the time of day when all of Spain slept during the summer. The heat lasted until nightfall, and all that time he had to carry his jacket. But when he thought to complain about the burden of its weight, he remembered that, because he had the jacket, he had withstood the cold of the dawn. We have to be prepared for change, he thought, and he was grateful for the jacket's weight and warmth. One afternoon, on a visit to his family, he had summoned up the courage to tell his father that he didn't want to become a priest. That he wanted to travel. "Those people, when they see our land, say that they would like to live here forever," his father continued. "Well, I'd like to see their land, and see how they live," said his son. "The people who come here have a lot of money to spend, so they can afford to travel," his father said. "Amongst us, the only ones who travel are the shepherds." "Well, then I'll be a shepherd." His father said no more. The next day, he gave his son a pouch that held 3 ancient Spanish gold coins. "I found these one day in the fields. I wanted them to be a part of your inheritance. But use them to buy your flock. Take to the fields, and someday you'll learn that our countryside is the best, and our women the most beautiful." And he gave the boy his blessing. The boy could see in his father's gaze a desire to be able, himself, to travel the world, a desire that was still alive, despite his father's having had to bury it, over dozens of years. Under the burden of struggling for water to drink, food to eat, and the same place to sleep every night of his life.
Let's begin with the first 2 questions from The Alchemist, Chapter 7. Question 1. Why does Santiago feel a desire to live in one place forever? Answer: Santiago feels this way after meeting the merchant's daughter. Her kindness, beauty, and interest in his stories make him feel happy and excited. He begins to imagine a life where he stays in one place, just to be to her. For the first time, he feels like staying might be more meaningful than traveling. Question 2. What is Santiago's purpose in life according to the text, and how does he plan to fulfill it? And the answer is: Santiago believes his true purpose is to travel, explore, and learn. He chooses to become a shepherd, not just to care for sheep, but to see the world, new people, and discover life's meaning through his journey. These early moments in the story show the pull between comfort and adventure, something many of us can relate to. Now let's move on to questions 3 and 4, from Chapter 7 of The Alchemist. Question 3. How does Santiago's father react when he expresses his desire to become a shepherd and travel? And the answer is Santiago's father listens quietly, and even though it must be hard for him, he supports his son. He gives Santiago coins to buy sheep, showing love, and he respects his son's dreams, even though he himself loves their land deeply. This moment teaches us about kindness, understanding, and letting go for someone you love. Question 4. Answer some powerful themes here are following your dreams, learning from the world, and the bond between humans and nature. We also see the beginning of personal growth through experience. These ideas continue throughout the book, shaping Santiago's journey and helping him discover who he truly is. This part of the story gently reminds us that every journey begins with a dream, and sometimes, a blessing from someone who believes in us. Now let's move on to questions 5 and 6, from Chapter 7 of The Alchemist. Question 5. Explore Santiago's motivations for becoming a shepherd and his desire to travel. How do these motivations shape his character? Answer. Santiago's main motivation is his wish to see the world beyond his village by becoming a shepherd. He can travel and learn new things. This makes him curious, brave, and independent. His desire to travel helps shape him into a person who is always eager to discover more and follow his dreams. Question 6. Consider the symbolic significance of the church, sycamore tree, and the boy's jacket. What might they represent in the narrative? Answer. The church represents a place of resting about dreams. The sycamore tree growing inside the ruined church stands for hope and new beginnings, showing that life can grow even in broken places. The jacket represents how even things that feel like a burden can protect and help us, like it keeps Santiago warm during cold mornings. Now let's move on to questions 7 and 8. Question 7. Read the recount given in the lesson text, and discuss the impact it had on the reader. Answer. The recount helps the reader understand Santiago's simple but meaningful life. It shows how he learns from his sheep and nature. It makes readers think about their own dreams, and the choices they make. It also tells us to notice the small things in life that can guide and protect us. Question 8. Compare the text with a similar genre story you have read earlier. Comment on implied meaning, e.g., writer's viewpoint and relationship between characters. Answer. This text is like The Little Prince, where the hero travels and learns from others. Both stories show that people should follow their dreams, and that journeys help us grow. The writer's viewpoint is that we should listen to our hearts. The relationship between Santiago and the merchant's daughter shows how love and friendship can make us want to stay in one place, even if we love adventure. And that's a wrap. 10 words, 10 deeper meanings. Hope this helps you use them more confidently in your writing or conversations. If you found this helpful, hit that like button and subscribe for more word power. See you in the next one.